Corporation has partnered with Rockshore International Company as part of efforts to develop Ghana's integrated aluminium industry. The Accra-based company will own a 70% stake in the project, and the state-owned GIADC will have the remaining 30%. Now, Rockshore is expected to lead the construction of a $200 million bauxite mine in central Ghana and a bauxite refinery of about $1 billion. Well, let's now get some more insight into this project. We're joined by Michael Ansah. He is the Chief Executive Officer at Ghana's Integrated Aluminium Development Corporation, or GIADEC, as we're going to call it, which is the country's state-owned mining firm. Great to have you with us on the show today, Mr. Ansah. Now, let's start off with how does GIADEC and, of course, your private partner Rockshore plan to raise the $1.2 billion, which is needed to build the mine and, of course, that bauxite refinery?
Thank you very much for having me on your show this evening. And first of all, just clarify that GIADEC, this is a very momentous deal that GIADEC has struck with Rockshore International as part of our plans to make sure that we add value to all of our raw materials that we produce in Ghana. This is at the core of what GIADEC is all about. And this first transaction we've signed is one of 4 projects that were launched by His Excellency, the President, Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, on the 14th of September to effectively frame the whole integrated aluminium industry projects that GIADEC is driving. So the deal that was struck with Rockshore is to develop a mine and a refinery to make sure that the bauxite that we mine in Ghana is refined in Ghana. And of course, this is going to be, as you said, a $1.2 billion dollar item. And the way we are looking to raise funding for this is effectively through instruments of equity and debt. We're looking at a structure that will allow us to leverage the bauxite that we have, that will allow us to go to the capital markets to raise money, or more than likely go to various markets to be able to raise the funding that will require. So it will be a mix of equity and debt. And as you mentioned earlier, GIADEC is taking a 30% stake in the development that we're going to do with Rockshore, and they will be owning the majority 70% stake.
Well, let's talk a little bit about the sector as a whole. Currently, we know Ghana is the continent's 3rd largest bauxite exporter, but you did see bauxite exports falling about 22% year on year in 2019. It's currently at around 1.4 million tons per year. What caused that decline? And I know it came from about 1.6, 1.8.
Yeah, well, I think the figures there, are not totally correct. The highest we produce in Ghana is about 1.5 million. So the 1.4 you refer to, we've been operating between sort of 1 to 1.5 million over the past 3 years or so. But that notwithstanding, our focus is on expanding the current mine. So we currently have a mine that we've been mining for the last 70 odd years or so, and just exporting the bauxite. But what we're looking to do under this plan is to actually develop about 3 or 4 mines in the main. I'll be producing on average about 5 million tons of bauxite. So we're looking to raise our bauxite production today from the current 1 million to 1.5 million tons to, in the project with Rockshore, at least 5 million tons. And then the other projects that we'll have will also be delivering something of that same level. So as far as bauxite mining is concerned, this project is going to ensure that we expand the existing mine and also develop new mines. So we're going to see increased production in what we're doing. But more importantly, we do not want to export bauxite as a raw material. So the focus is going to be on refining. And to that end, we and our partners are committed to building these refineries in Ghana that will refine the bauxite and also smelt the alumina that we produce. You may know that Ghana has an alumina plant, a smelter that we've had since about 1967, going back quite a few decades ago. So what we're looking to do is to retrofit that smelter to be able to use it as the, if like the foundation for refining the alumina that we produce in Ghana, And really the end game for what we're doing is to drive the development of downstream industries. So this is a core part of our industrial transformation agenda, and it's going to feed a nascent automotive industry that's developing in Ghana. There are other industries that are going to be reliant on aluminium that is produced in Ghana. So we're looking to be able to lock the value across the entire value chain from mining, refining to smelting through the development of downstream industries that will develop products and things that will sell into the global market, and especially to the African markets, with the coming into force of the single market, African single markets through the Africa Continental Free Trade Area.
Quite right. And on that note, and certainly looking forward, we know GEDEC is reportedly seeking as much as $6 billion to exploit the country's bauxite resources going forward. Give us some more insight into the most promising deposits available at the moment, and certainly any other project that is in the works.
Thank you very much for that. So historically, Ghana has about 900 to 1 billion metric tons of bauxite spread across 3 key locations in the Ashanti region, the Ninahin area, in the western north region, and also in the eastern region of Ghana. So these resources we know we have, and there's historical data to back the quality and quantity of bauxite that we have. Now, what we're looking to do in this is to leverage the bauxite that we have to establish, as I said, 3 to 4 mines or so. And these 3 mines will be based in the western north region, in the Ashanti region, in the eastern region. And the objective of this is to make sure that we can fully exploit or harness our bauxite resources in the right way. We're looking at doing this so that we can build the refineries that are associated with that. So essentially the $6 billion project that we talked about is related to developing 4 projects in the main. The first one is the expansion of the existing mine and building of a refinery attached to that. The second one is the deal that we signed with Rockshore International, a local Ghanaian company that is very strong in mining and has the capacity to develop what we're looking at. So again, developing a mine and a refinery solution. And the third project is also going to be developing the extra resources that we have in the rest of Ninahin and in the eastern region, in the Chebi area. And again, this will be with an integrated project with a refinery solution. And then finally, I mentioned earlier that we have the Valco plant, which is a smelter that we've had in Ghana since 1967. The technology for the plant is quite old, as you would imagine, and the equipment is also quite aged. So what we're looking to do is to modernize and retrofit this plant to be able to improve the efficiency and also increase the capacity of the smelter. So our focus in all of this is value addition. It's in making sure that we mine bauxite in Ghana, but more importantly, we refine, we smelt, and we use that as the basis for developing downstream industries. So the $6 billion project relates to the 4 projects that I talked about, with each.
Well, it looks like we've lost Mr. Ansah there, but many thanks to him, Michael Ansah, CEO of Ghana's Integrated Aluminium Development Corporation, joining us there from Accra with some insight into the country's bauxite sector. Well, let's move on now to Guinea, where the country's new military authorities and all stakeholders in the financial sector have held talks about the country's banking industry. General managers of banking, microfinance and insurance institutions looked at ways to ensure an inclusive and peaceful transition under the new leadership. Now, the president of the CNRD, Colonel Doumbouya, has promised to support the banking sector. He also asked the bankers to accelerate the process of digitization of banks to control the flight of capital in this phase of transition.
We want to work for the development of Guinea, which we have in common. What we all dream of is seeing Guinea develop. We are bank workers. We are workers of the socio-economic development of the country within all layers. We are the catalysts for the creation of the wealth at the level of the various sociological components of Guinea. We are at the service of the Republic, and we will continue to finance the private sector, SMEs of women and young people, and to create wealth in every corner of Guinea so that every Guinean is proud of our beloved country.
The aim of the meeting was to reassure Guinea's financial sector that CNRD will do everything possible to continue to promote the business climate that will enable them to continue their activities.
Meanwhile, in Nigeria, President Muhammadu Buhari has ordered that the Nigerian National Petroleum Corporation be incorporated to become a public liability company soon. It's all part of efforts to privatize the petroleum company after a historic petroleum bill was signed last month by the president. Well, CGTN's Fili Haza reports from the country's capital, Abuja.
President Buhari, who is also Nigeria's petroleum minister, appointed the board members, including Ifeanyi Ararume, as NNPC chairman and its current chief executive officer, Mele Kyari, to continue to head the firm and steer it to this new direction. The new incorporation is meant to see NNPC sell its shares to the public to raise more capital in a few years. The incorporation becomes mandatory as required by the Petroleum Industrial Act that was signed by President Buhari last month after 20 years of deliberation. The move by the president is part of efforts by the government to revamp the oil industry in Nigeria and convert a government-run company to a public liability entity. This is towards ensuring more transparency and productivity, as well as curtailing years of mismanagement and corruption. Before now, the oil firm has barely made much profit after 44 years of operation. According to Buhari, NNPC made its first profit last month after making losses of up to $2 billion in 2018. Phil Ihaza, CGTN, Abuja.
Now look at some other corporate headlines today. Kenya's Safaricom has submitted a proposal to Kenya Power for the installation of $300 million smart meter system at the state-owned power utility. Once approved, the company plans to install and operate the smart meter system for 8 years before transferring it to Kenya Power. The system proposed by Safaricom will use the Internet of Things, which allows a real-time monitoring of the grid to cut power system losses by 8 percentage points in 2 years. And the African Development Bank's Sustainable Energy Fund for Africa has approved a $1 million grant for the modernization of Africa's aging hydropower fleet. The move is expected to add 200 megawatts of generation capacity, as well as create 150 jobs and cut greenhouse gas emissions by around 300 kilotons of carbon dioxide each year. Meanwhile, Royal Dutch Shell is set to produce 2 million tons of low-carbon fuel at scale by 2025 in a bid to encourage the world's airlines to reduce greenhouse gas emissions. Now, this marks a 10-fold increase from today's total global output. The company estimates that sustainable aviation fuel could reduce up to 80% of aviation emissions. And British Prime Minister Boris Johnson is expected to confront Amazon's boss, Jeff Bezos, over his company's record of paying tiny amounts of tax in the UK. The Prime Minister will meet Bezos as part of a 3-day trip to New York and Washington. Now, Amazon has sparked fury over many years for its minimal tax payments in the UK, and that's despite making billions in sales. The company paid $672.8 million in direct taxation in 2020 as its sales rose 50% to $28.2 billion. And that's a look at our corporate headlines. Well, we are heading into a short break now, still coming up on the show. Egypt's expatriate remittances hit an all-time high of $31 billion. And smartphone shipments into Nigeria are up by 37% in the second quarter of this year.
The world economy as we know it is about to change. Global business reports highlight emerging markets, developing countries, and dynamic sectors worldwide. We feature top analysts and newsmakers to provide perspectives on every facet of business. From an on-the-ground perspective, we provide you with balanced and objective assessments. Fast, sharp, and insightful. Global Business. Only on CGTN.
Every story starts out like this.
Okay. We'll head up now.
But beyond the rush of the numbers, there's always a more fundamental question. What happened? Who has been affected? When market-moving decisions are made, who's responsible and why?
Let's get some reaction on ground. Joining us in Johannesburg is Uche Okoronkwo. Hello, Nairobi.
This is how all stories begin. See how they end. Only on Global Business.
There's more to this place than just glorious landscapes. There's more to it than just, say, Table Mountain or glorious, endless salt flats. There's more to it than countries that are home to some of the deepest mines in the world. There is so much more to this place, even if it is home to some of the finest diamonds on the planet. It is the sheer diversity of the people who call Southern Africa home, and the relentless drive to make it a better place that make it so special. And we know that because this too is home. No one knows Southern Africa like we do. CGTN, see the difference.
Africa is the nexus of enterprise, and Global Business will tell you why it matters.
From the mega investment projects to multi-billion-dollar mergers and acquisitions.
Africa today collects, just in terms of revenues from taxes alone, $545 billion a year. If you take 10% of that and you devote it to the energy sector, problem solved.
All this on Global Business, weekdays at this time on CGTN.
Welcome back. Well, let's go to Egypt now. The country's expatriate remittances surged to an all-time high of $31.4 billion in the 2020-2021 financial year. Now, according to the Central Bank of Egypt, the country recorded an increase of 13.2% during that period. That's up from $27.8 billion a year earlier. Here's CGTN's Yasser Akim, who brings us up to speed with the latest data.
A new record has been set in Egypt as remittances climbed to an unprecedented $31.4 billion. According to the official statistics agency CAPMAS, there are 9.5 million registered Egyptians working abroad. Most of the country's remittances come from expatriates working in the Arab Gulf nations, followed by Europe and the United States. What was unexpected is the surge of remittances in spite of the economic recession that hit the global economies since the outbreak of the coronavirus pandemic. And remittances have even exceeded the pre-pandemic levels. For some experts, the spike in transfers reflects confidence in the Egyptian reform policies that allow expatriates to invest back home.
The transfers of the Egyptians are done in different manners. The first one, of course, everybody knows that we have a very large plan for building new cities, specialized cities. So every Egyptian who could live overseas would like to have either an apartment or a place. Interest rates on the Egyptian pounds are very attractive. So Egyptians living overseas, they are transferring their money, convert them into pounds and get on them decent returns. As well, all the instrument which has been launched by the Egyptian government would have been bonds, debentures or others. As well, Egyptians living overseas would like to invest in this.
Expatriates have been encouraged by Egypt's strong economic showing, being one of only a handful of nations that posted positive growth rates amid the pandemic-led slowdown. The record high remittances have also had a positive impact on the economy, making up for the sharp drop in other major sources of hard currency, such as tourism.
This is witnessed by the decrease of the level of unemployment, the decrease of the level of inflation, the decrease of the deficit in the budget. So on all economic aspects, on economic indices, it's on the positive way.
A World Economic Forum report says remittances now account for over 31% of Egypt's net foreign reserves. The government hopes this upward trend will continue, so it can boost recovery efforts from the effects of the COVID-19 pandemic. Yasser Hakim for CGTN, Cairo.
Meanwhile, Tunisia posted a 7.5% jump in tourism receipts in the first 8 months of the year. Now, authorities there say improved ways to deal with the pandemic have been one of the main reasons for the steady recovery of the vital tourism sector. CGTN's Adnan Ashaushi has more on that report from Tunis.
Tourism officials in Tunisia say they have recorded several positive indicators that show signs of recovery after a pandemic-induced slowdown battered the crucial industry. Tunisia's acting Minister of Tourism, Habiba Hammar, noted that the successful national vaccination drive targeting employees in the industry is stimulating recovery of the sector, which accounts for more than 10% of its GDP.
The success of the vaccination operation has had a positive impact on tourism activity in Tunisia. The vaccination drive included all professionals and employees in the tourism industry. This includes all those who are in direct contact with clients in hotels, tourist resorts, travel agencies, restaurants, tourist guides, and people working in museums. We've succeeded in protecting our professionals as well as the tourists.
The number of overnight stays edged up 8.2% to 4.8 million during the first 8 months of 2021. This rise was boosted by domestic tourism as overnights spent by Tunisians climbed by nearly 20% to 2.8 million overnight stays, against a 4.7% fall in the number of foreign tourists.
The vaccination has given professionals in the tourism industry the energy to work in a safe environment. In addition to foreign tourists, more and more domestic tourists are staying at hotels because they know that the health protocol is respected and the persons they will meet are vaccinated.
Tunisian tourism syndicates have encouraged the vaccination drive for some 600,000 workers in the vital industry. Experts say this operation has allowed hotel owners to preserve thousands of jobs.
We are at risk of contracting the virus. The vaccine saves lives and saves jobs as well. Tourism has been hit hard since the outbreak of the pandemic. Now there are new opportunities in the tourism industry.
The number of arrivals to the Tunisian borders were down by 7.1% to 1.5 million persons, due to the 38.7% drop in the number of travelers from the Maghreb region. Nevertheless, the number of European tourists rose by 20% despite the travel ban imposed by several countries to the North African destination. According to the Commissioner for Tourism in the coastal city of Hammamet, tourist arrivals at this Mediterranean resort posted a 14.6% rise in July and August compared to the same period last year. Tunisia's domestic tourists have the lion's share, followed by tourists from Russia, while those from the French markets rank it third. Adnan Shawashi, CGTN, Tunis.
And moving on now, the latest ABSA South African Manufacturing Survey highlights the impact of unrest and lockdown restrictions on manufacturers' confidence in the country. For the third quarter, the survey shows a slight dip in overall sector confidence. Here's Angelo Coppola with more insights into the data.
The Q3 survey data regarding inventories is more positive than in previous quarters, but the business confidence level fell 5 points to 41 due to harsher COVID restrictions and the riots in KwaZulu-Natal and Gauteng.
So with all of that playing out, I was surprised that we didn't see a bigger drop in confidence, even though we're sitting at 41 points, which means about 59% of manufacturers aren't happy with current conditions. I think it could have been a lot worse.
Economists remain concerned about the record-breaking high unemployment levels of 34.4%.
These numbers in terms of industrial activity, how to translate into jobs. So currently, we're not seeing the numbers in terms of improvement in PMI data translating into jobs, which I think is a serious challenge if you want to really revive the domestic economy from the consumption point of view.
Looking ahead, there are some challenges that will affect manufacturers' confidence levels. Load shedding remains the biggest constraint.
It's still there, and what we saw in the survey increase this quarter when it came down quite nicely the previous quarter was political uncertainty. So in there's a whole bunch of different things at play. Eskom comes into those numbers, the restrictions because of COVID, and a lot of other issues. And I think that's still with us with a lot of the uncertainty.
Government has attempted to kickstart the economy by providing incentives with limited success at this stage. This has had an impact on confidence levels too.
There has to be sharing of information at industry level for the industries to know that no, these incentives are available from the government point of view. Because sometimes you find that no, there's lack of communication between what the industry can get from government in terms of incentive, because most of these things are kept on the government website. So there has to be more communication, visible communication.
The urgent need for investment in roads, rail and port infrastructure can't be understated, say the experts.
As soon as we see infrastructure investment, that's just going to have a spillover effect to the rest of the economy, and that's where the demand picks up. So for private sector to start spending the cash on the balance sheets, but also I think for all of us to see those infrastructure programs to really kick off, because I think that's ultimately how this industry is going to, or this sector is going to benefit.
The low levels of confidence in the manufacturing sector are due mainly to Eskom, but it's also about the political environment. That has to be resolved quite soon so that those manufacturers can get on with the job. I'm Angelo Coppola for CGTN in Johannesburg, South Africa.
Now, a lack of clean water has pushed residents of Eburu village in Kenya's Nakuru County to trap geothermal steam in order to generate clean water for themselves. And as CGTN's Nick Mudimba now reports, for a long time, the residents had to walk long distances in order to get the precious commodity.
En route to Eburu village in Naivasha, that is in Kenya's Nakuru County, we meet this young man who has walked a long distance to get water. It's an area where getting the much needed commodity has been a challenge for long. But the residents seem to have found a way out of their misery. They're condensing geothermal steam into clean water that caters for most of their needs.
Kwanza tunaweka hii chuma ya chini hii ndio inaingia ndani ya shimo.
We put long metallic pipes deep into these holes to trap the steam. We attach it to the condenser, which holds all the gas and reduces pressure. We put the condensers in a slanting manner so that once the steam gets inside, the water will come out.
Nayo maji yanatiririka chini.
The metallic pipes increase the cooling effect, and as the residual steam escapes the tank, more of it cools and drains back as clean water. The reservoir on the ground collects the hot water, so the water is clean and safe for drinking.
We didn't have sources of water here, no rivers, no wells. This is our only source of water here in Eburu. I have been raised using this water. This is what we have been using domestically, feeding our cows, washing clothes and everything. This water tastes so fresh and it's so good that it can't give you complications.
According to the World Health Organization, sharp geographic, social, cultural and economic inequalities persist, not only between rural and urban areas but also in towns and cities. People living in low-income, informal or illegal settlements usually have less access to improved sources of drinking water than other residents. In 2015, 91% of the world's population had access to an improved drinking water source, compared with 76% in 1990. 4.2 billion people now get water through a piped connection. 2.4 billion access water through other improved sources, including public taps, protected wells and boreholes. 663 million people rely on unimproved sources, including 159 million people dependent on surface water. Globally, at least 1.8 billion people use a drinking water source contaminated. By 2025, half of the world's population will be living in water-stressed areas.
We used to pay for water and getting money is a challenge, but now things have changed since this place was fenced by rhino arc and the steam water is now sufficient for all of us.
The geysers are few and the potential keeps diminishing. This being communal land, one has to seek the green light from community leaders to trap the steam. For those using the high temperature generator to boil their food, they kill two birds with one stone.
Clean water is essential for quality life, and residents here are happy that something they were born and got here is still serving them even centuries now. But there's only one challenge they're having: corrosiveness of what they're using to actually trap the water. For now, they're only using this to survive because they have no wells, they have no rivers to cater for the quality and quantity of their water. Nick Mudimba, CGTN, Nakuru County, Kenya.
And in Nigeria, smartphone shipments into the country grew by 37% in the second quarter of 2021. That is according to the latest report from International Data Corporation. The study shows that brands such as Tecno, Itel and Infinix continue to dominate Africa's smartphone space with 47% unit shares during that period. Samsung and Xiaomi followed in second and third place with unit shares of 19.3% and 9.1% respectively. Here's CGTN's Deji Badmus with more.
With an estimated over 100 million smartphone users and still counting, it's really not a surprise that the IDC data shows Nigeria tops smartphone shipments into Africa. Ziggy Ibe has been dealing in ICT products, including smartphones, in Nigeria's biggest ICT market, the Computer Village in Lagos, for several years now. He says the demand for smartphones is rapidly increasing.
Some of the smartphones demand is basically because of their video quality, because of their connectivity ability to connect to your business partners out there. Okay, so yes, the smaller phones are still in the market, but their demands are becoming too low because there's nothing much they could do as compared to the smartphones.
ICT experts say price is at the heart of the increasing demand for smartphones in Nigeria, and they attribute that to cheaper smartphones from Chinese brands, which are now the market leader in the country.
We've been able to discount the prices of the highly known brands, and I don't want to mention their names, by a factor of 45% in terms of pricing. And this has made it accessible to those that are previously feature-owned phone users to the smartphone users. And since it's their first time of using the smartphones, they obviously are very price conscious. And because the Chinese type phones and devices have been able to address the affordability, there's been a noticed ramp up in the number of smart devices that are in country.
One Chinese brand that has quickly established itself as the dominant player in Nigeria's smartphone market is Transsion, with its popular brands Tecno and Infinix. Ibe says the demand for the brands is indeed high.
Tecno and Infinix are taking the lead because they are affordable, okay, and they can equally give you what you can do with the little amount you use in getting them. It's evidential, you know, in all the places you go.
With Nigeria set to roll out the 5G network, ICT experts are forecasting increased broadband penetration and smartphone usage in the country.
It means that we have to spend more on Forex, which is not such a good thing for Nigeria. Obviously, if we are able to support and promote local brands, and I'm referring to Tecno, for instance, and AfriOne, then there'll be less dependence or requirements for Forex to be used to import these phones. So what we need to do is really establish locally assembled or locally manufactured devices in Nigeria. We have a very large population and it's going to continue to grow.
As smartphone sales continue to rise, demand for feature phones, which used to dominate the market here, is dropping. The IDC data shows feature phone shipment into the country dropped by 6.4% in the second quarter of 2021. So it might just be a matter of time before smartphones completely take over the market here. Deji Badimasi, CGTN, Lagos, Nigeria.
You're watching Global Business Africa. Let's take a short break now, but still to come. UK gas firms seek help amid higher energy bill fears. And China sends more cargo to its under-construction space station.
completely out of my depth, but at the same time, it's exciting. It's new, it's different, it's a challenge.
It's really exciting.
Business in Africa is at a crossroads. We celebrate those who are adopting and thriving despite the challenges, from grassroots to big businesses. Global Business takes you along for the ride as we track the making of a giant. Only on CGTN.
I try to not let it affect me, but there are days when it does. I'm a human being, and to see patients in a hospital bed and their family members are not there, there's no one there to hold their hand, that human touch, you know?
I just hope everyone can remember that the situation is not permanent and that everything will get better eventually.
Well, let's get you some international news now. The UK government has held an emergency meeting with energy and consumer groups. This comes amid an increase in gas prices that threatens huge bills for households and undermines food supplies, also casting doubts on energy firms' futures. Prime Minister Boris Johnson has sought to reassure consumers fearing surging winter power bills and the possibility of more small British energy firms collapsing from higher costs. Now, prices of natural gas in Britain have hit record highs, also driven up after a fire knocked out a vital point connecting the country's power grid to France. Wholesale prices for gas have also rocketed 70% since August, adding to already strong inflation that has been stoked by staff shortages. And moving on, the Universal Studios Beijing resort officially opens on Monday. After weeks of soft opening, the brand's new theme park is set to embrace tourists from all over the world. Here's CGTN's reporter Shi Jia bringing us more on what's hot tonight.
After years of waiting, Universal Studios Chinese lovers can finally enjoy its Beijing theme park. According to China's biggest online travel site, Trip.com, tickets for the opening day were sold out within 1 minute, and all Universal Studios Grand Hotel rooms were booked within 30 minutes.
They'll know this is the largest park actually ever open on opening day, and certainly the largest Universal Studios ever open on opening day. It has everything they know and love of other Universal parks, and then more. The first ever Transformers area, the largest Minion area, the first Kung Fu Panda indoor area, the first Waterworld area.
Aside from the same elements that go along with the other 4 Universal Studio parks, this one provides a Chinese touch.
Well, I think what makes this different is it's like the latest generation of Universal parks, but it's done with a Chinese influence. So we brought global experience and then we mixed it with local insights. So this park really has taken the very best of 2 worlds and brought it right to the people of China.
According to official statistics, after the official opening on September the 20th, it is predicted that Beijing Universal Resort will attract 12 million visitors every year. with an estimated annual revenue of over 10 billion RMB, or around $1.5 billion.
According to estimation, the Universal Studio project will boost Beijing's GDP by an average of 1.02% per year while it is under construction. After completion of the project, according to the direct park revenue of 10 billion yuan per year and 3 to 5 times the economic revenue, it can boost Beijing's GDP by 0.28%. And the direct employment in the park should be between 12 to 15,000 employees, and the indirect employment will be 3 to 4 times of that number.
Universal Studios Beijing is set to enrich Beijing's cultural atmosphere and make it a true metropolitan city offering fun and diverse choices. Xia CGTN, Beijing.
Meanwhile, China has sent more cargo to its under-construction space station. It took off on Monday from the Wenchang spacecraft launch site in Hainan province in the south of the country. CGTN's Zhang Yibing has more.
Another launch to supply China's new space station, carrying some 6 metric tons of cargo. It came immediately after the return of 3 Chinese astronauts from the space station. But the cargo on board the Tianzhou 3 spacecraft will help with future missions.
Tianzhou 3 has some technologies that we will use in the core module of the space station. We also hope the cargo ship will play an important role in the ongoing construction and operation of the space station.
The rocket that carried the spacecraft along March 7, Y4, was modified for the mission. Engineers say they're learning a lot as they go, and this is benefiting the overall project.
The mission is a great success. Compared with previous missions, there weren't even tiny flaws in the whole launch process, either from propellant filling to the tests, or from the launch and the flight and to the satellite rocket separation.
The success of the launch has extra meaning too.
Together with the manned mission behind it, the Tianzhou 3 cargo craft launch marks another big step for China's space station in low Earth orbit, set to be complete by 2022. Zheng Yibing, CGTN, Wenchang.
On that note, let's take a look at commodity markets today. Oil prices dropping more than $1 per barrel to below $75 today. That's as rising risk aversion weighed on stock markets and boosted the US dollar. Also, more US Gulf oil output came back online in the wake of 2 hurricanes in the country. Meanwhile, gold prices hitting a more than 5-week low today as the dollar firmed. The dollar index hit a near 1-month high, and that hurt gold's appeal for holders of other currencies. It was also quite a tough day for other metals. Platinum and copper both fell over 2% on the day. Palladium plunged 3% to trade at its weakest level since early July. And on that note, let's take a short break, but still coming up on the show. Ugandan smallholder farmers turn to the digital market to sell their fresh produce. And we visit a boutique hotel that shows a glimpse into the life of South Africa's first democratic president.
Africa is a continent of diversity, with varied climates and enchanting geography, and a people so distinct, but with a shared enduring spirit. We are at the heart of the continent to bring you the untold stories.
Let's have a look.
We celebrate Africa as it shapes its own destiny.
Tunis, Cairo, Juba, Ethiopia, Tanzania.
Africa Live. Find your voice.
Images may appear to be identical, but looks can be deceiving. The difference is not always obvious. It has to be discovered. There are always different sides to a story. We put the focus on the details. To see more, to understand better. CGTN. see the difference.
You don't find the stories of North Africa by sitting on the sidelines. No one else will take you where we can in North Africa. And no one else will show you what it's all about. CGTN, see the difference.
Now in Uganda, a group of digital marketers are helping smallholder farmers to sell their fresh produce using online markets. The United Nations Food and Agriculture Organization estimates farms in sub-Saharan Africa fail to sell up to 50% of fresh produce, leading to food wastage. Well, CGTN's Isabel Nakiria has more on that story.
Tons of Irish potatoes ready for delivery in Kampala's markets and hotels. This warehouse outside the capital, Kampala, buys Irish potatoes from rural farmers and sells with the help of online markets.
We have different online markets. We have Jumia, we have Walimi, we have Safe Border, and then we have personal distributors.
And to ensure good standards, the Ukumbi warehouse supplies quality seeds to the rural farmers to maintain good yields.
Most of our market here, they don't want a small size, since most of them use for chips. So you find when you have a small size, we have to again take it back to Fort Portal and use it maybe for seedling.
With support from online markets like Walimi Katali, this farmer store has managed to sell out all its fresh potatoes much easier and faster. The digital team says they are trying to scale up markets for farmers using technology.
We have a lot of farming going on the continent, but then when you look at farming, agriculture and technology, there's been a gap. Agriculture has been left behind for a long time. And yet, if you just came in and just used technology to transform agriculture, there's a lot of mileage you could attain.
Many rural farmers lack cold storage for their fresh produce, and a lot of it goes to waste if it can't be sold quickly. Many more farmers have already signed in on this online market and are selling a wide range of fresh produce. This kind of technology is not only helping farmers avoid farm losses, but also improving their incomes. The Food and Agriculture Organization says it's trained 80 farmer groups in Uganda in good farming practices and improved technologies. The UN hopes farmers can put these skills to good use to enable them to have bigger yields and also avoid wastage. Isabel Nakiria, CGTN Kampala, Uganda.
And in southern Kenya, the efforts of one farmer are now helping to save wildlife from a prolonged drought. Patrick Kilonzo is delivering clean drinking water to herds in the Tsavo National Park. And CGTN's Daniel Arap Moy has his story.
These animals are struggling to adapt to the drastic reduction in rainfall and drying up of their habitat. They face severe water scarcity due to prolonged drought, but hope is on the way. Driving over 70 kilometers, Patrick Kilonzo is bringing water to Kenya's Tsavo National Park. Taita is home to one of Kenya's largest wildlife sanctuaries within the Tsavo National Park.
Getting water here, it's not easy. It's really a rare commodity in this area. So, it is something that we value it so much. And yeah, so that's the distance actually that we are covering. If like I don't deliver water, animals will die automatically because there is nowhere you can get water here in the park, especially when it's not raining.
Unlike many others who track and sell water to residential areas, Kilonzo is doing it to save the animals. Kilonzo admits it's not an easy task.
Like sometimes you go, you find other trucks also fetching water for other reasons. So you have to wait probably 1 hour or half an hour, depending on how many trucks are ahead of you. And then from there, you bring the truck here. And, when the truck is full of water, it goes very slowly. So it may take you 1.5 hours to be here.
According to the government, wildlife-based tourism accounts for approximately 10% of the country's GDP. Kilonzo says he is driven by the devastating effects of past droughts in the area that wiped out nearly 40% of the animals. The Savo waterman is also building water ponds to conserve water during dry spells. With drought and no rain in sight, the need for water has never been greater in Kenya's Savo National Park. Kenya recorded below average rainfall during the long rains between March and May this year. With the rain still not in sight, authorities are looking for alternative solutions.
We are also trying as much as possible to educate and create awareness to sanctuaries and also conservancies which are surrounding us to make sure that they come up with water structures, including water ponds and tanks, so that they can store water during rain season for use during dry spells.
Patrick Kilonzo depends on donations to support his water tracking. He hopes that with his efforts, fewer animals will die due to lack of water. Daniel Arab Moi, CGTN, Taita, Kenya.
Now, South Africa's first democratic president, Nelson Mandela, continues to be remembered by people across the world. The iconic statesman died 6 years ago, but his legacy as a freedom fighter and a humanitarian lives on. Well, the Nelson Mandela Foundation is now giving those that revered him another opportunity to experience a part of his life. Here's Sumitra Naidu with the details.
Sanctuary Mandela is for anyone wanting a glimpse into Madiba's life after 27 years in prison. His first home in Soweto was turned into a museum. His second home here in Houghton, Johannesburg, was where Mandela spent his last years.
He lived here when he left Soweto after he was released. He also lived here, part of his presidency, and even post his presidency, just before he moved into the other house on 12th Avenue with Mama Gracia Machel.
The Nelson Mandela Foundation collaborated with the Motsamai Tourism Group to transform the home into a boutique hotel.
We wanted to create something not quite a museum, but something that also embodies the spirit of the person of Nelson Mandela and bring it to life. And that's really how we thought we should do a place of reflection, which is what we call this facility. But it's really accommodation, 9 bedrooms, very luxuriously done. It also has a conferencing facility, and we've got a lovely restaurant called Insights, where we also have Sistoli, who used to be President Mandela's chef, working together with the kitchen team to really infuse a complete Mandela experience into the food even.
This hotel is simple yet elegant. It has been beautifully decorated with modern touches, but it does give you a feeling like you're going back in time into the history of Nelson Mandela.
We've curated a whole story. It's a journey through Madiba's life. We want you, when you come through, to live in every single room and have a different story or a different take from your stay. It's an experience, so anyone who comes here must leave here with a head full of knowledge.
The walls adorn art to capture the essence of who Madiba was and the various periods of his life.
We kept the facade exactly the same because it is a heritage site. And so we kept the main face of the whole building exactly the same. The window paneling is still the original window paneling. We just had it refurbished. And then we've got 3 original rooms from the house as well. Everything else has been built on.
Every detail of this boutique hotel is designed to deliver history and mindful experiences. The staff go out of their way to make you feel like you're a guest of Madiba himself. Sumitra Nadu, CGTN, Houghton, South Africa.
Well, before we leave you today, here's a quick look at Africa's commodity markets, currency markets rather. South Africa's rand sliding to its lowest against the dollar in about 4 weeks as commodity prices plunged further today, raising some questions about the durability of the commodity windfall that has partially shielded South Africa against the COVID-19 onslaught. Meanwhile, in Nigeria, the Naira continues to hover around 412, 413 Naira per dollar at the official forex window, as we see dollar liquidity dropping by 59% in the country. The exchange rate at the parallel market has gained marginally since last week. It's hovering at around 560, 562 Naira per dollar. Well, that's it for this edition of Global Business Africa. Remember, you can send your feedback to the contacts on your screen. You can also follow us on our various digital media platforms. From me, Uche Okoronkwo, and the rest of the team, thanks for watching.